time. Sorry, but look at you. You got us on the screen in the right places at the right time. Well done, my friend.
It's all those community college video production classes that I never took. So we're just winging it here.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. We are so excited this week to have our special guest, Ryan Knight, who might be experiencing some audio problems. We're going to get to that in just a sec. But I did want to say, Pat, how fun it was to have you down here in my city this week.
Yeah. So for all the haters out there who say Twitter isn't real life, we proved them wrong this weekend. I met Lila.
So much grass.
Oh, we touched all the grass. But the haters are going to be happy because Jimmy Dore was with us. And we had a book release party for the book that Savage Joy and I wrote together. And first time I met her as well. But Jimmy Dore, Steph Zamorano, and Rick Overton were nice enough to basically headline a comedy show to intro the book. And for all the people that say they're grifters and all that nonsense, they did it for free. None of this is to promote anything other than they just they met Joy at the Medicare for All stuff and were really nice people. So
it was a great time. We had a really fun
We had such a blast. And Lila's family is so nice. I don't know where she gets this attitude of hers, but they're really nice people and I enjoyed
all right. No, we had a great time. So, and Pat stayed with me and we ate and drank everything in sight for 3 days and it was really fun. So let's see. We're hoping that this works. We're going to bring Ryan on, and we're really excited to talk to him. So let's hope it all happens. Pat,
let's do it. And if it doesn't work, we'll dip out and try one more time. But here's Ryan. Hopefully. It's not working. Okay. So Ryan, if you could try one other thing and we'll give it one more shot. I don't know if there's
if he can do it
something you have on your end.
Computer audio and not the fancy mic. Maybe we'll try that. I know I had camera issues at the beginning. I got a fancy camera that people in the know told me to get, Pat. And I could not adjust the light. It was like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is Ryan's issue, but for me, it was like too much technology and it was so sensitive I couldn't do it. But should we try to bring him back and see if that
if whenever Ryan gives me a thumbs up, we'll give it a wing. We'll try it.
Let's try it.
How about just the old computer? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That's gonna work great.
Hey, awesome. Do you think your YouTube might be open? A page is open to YouTube because I'm hearing an echo.
We are getting the echo.
No, I have nothing else open. I have my email open. Let me shut that.
It's like I always feel like I'm carrying my age when all these things up and down.
Audio and tech stuff. That's why I have someone help me on my show.
No worries at all.
I don't have any other programs open.
It's just the mic is picking up the speakers.
I turned off. Let's see if it's.
You are truly amplifying us, amped up. You're as good as your
podcast. Apologies for this. I don't know what else. So you hear an echo? I don't know what else to do.
Not when you're talking, but when we're talking.
So if you have the wherewithal, you could mute when we're talking, and it would solve our problem. But that's a lot to ask of you as a guest.
He won't hear us though, right?
Okay, how about now? Is there echo now?
Let's test.
Hey,
we're here. We have a show.
You should join the union. You got it. Yeah.
Are you an IATSE member? This is good stuff.
My boyfriend is an IATSE member, but not me.
No. Nice.
Well, good. We have so much to talk about with the strikes and the Build Back Better plan. And Democracy in Action. So Ryan, hi. I know everybody probably knows who you are, but welcome. And please, will you tell us something about yourself and what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Knight. I am a grassroots activist. I host a podcast called Amped Up. that I think Pat, you came on when you when you promoted your book. I talked with you and Savage Joy. It was a great conversation. So yeah, I do grassroots activism. As many know, I was a Democrat for 18 years. I left the party after the 2020 primary and after all that. Can I swear?
Please.
Yes.
After all that fuckery in the 2020 primary, I cast my last vote in a Democratic primary for Bernie Sanders, and I couldn't vote for Joe Biden because I knew what a vote for Joe Biden meant. It meant that nothing was going to change, and we're seeing that pan out right now. So I try to use my podcast and platform to amplify anyone who's organizing outside of the duopoly, whether there's a candidate, Princess Blanding, who's running for office right now for governorship in Virginia under the Liberation Party. She's taking on both of the right-wing parties. I had a great conversation with her recently. I just had the March for Medicare for All organizers on. They're planning a new protest actually in a few days on the 30th of this month outside of Pelosi's house to demand Medicare for All. So
I will be, by the way. Sorry,
just
just
be there. We had
I
them on
feel that
last
asterisk, and I'm actually a speaker there. So
awesome. Yeah. So I that's it. And, nothing really else exciting. I mean, I want to see change in this country for the little person, we should have a government that's on our side, not one that's constantly working against us. And, it's going to be an uphill battle. And here we are.
One of the things sorry, good.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, one of the things I love about you, Ryan, is that your message it's so clear and clean, right? Like even the people whom I really love, like David Sirota, will talk about we have to see why is Kyrsten Sinema doing what she's doing, or why is Manchin? And to me, it's so clear. You say it all the time, and we know why they're doing it. They're not cowards. They aren't spineless. They are complicit, and they're all working for the same people. And I think a lot of people I hope are finally coming around to that. But I feel like the fact that you're always so clear about it is really compelling. And I think the message at some point has to get through. Do you feel like you're converting people? Who have you converted?
I think that the message will get through because the Democrats are dropping the ball right now. Every time they show us a little bit more of who they are and who they work for, which is their corporate donors, not the people, I think the message gets through a little bit more. Yeah. Unfortunately, they have a much bigger microphone than all of us. I mean, they have the corporate media. They have, the entire media apparatus is basically designed to isolate the duopoly from any real competition. Democrats have Fox News, have MSNBC and CNN, and Republicans have Fox News. Yeah, and they just continue to blast the airwaves with messages that kind of deceive the people into thinking that the party supports them. But I think what we're seeing right now is just the limits of working within the Democratic Party. I mean, the people overwhelmingly showed up for them in 2020, gave them a mandate, right? The Democrats control the House, they have the Senate, and they have the White House. And they're doing less than the bare minimum during a moment of historic inequality. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing play out right now in real time, is this disconnect between who the Democrats say they are to get votes and who they really are, right? The Democrats, they kind of present themselves as a party that fights for the people and the planet when they're campaigning. Right. They sell themselves to the American public as the party of hope and change. Obama was a master at that. But then when they get power, they do the exact opposite. They sell out the people and govern for big business and the ruling class. And it's time for the people, I think, to look beyond the empty platitudes and rhetoric from the Democrats and start paying attention to who they're governing for, because they're not governing for us. They're governing for Wall Street and giant corporations and the ruling class. And that's why the spending bill is inadequate. It's not Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Right. That's who the party uses as kind of the villain. So everyone will blame them and not blame the fact that the entire party is corrupt. I mean, I can just give you one example. You see a lot of people like the David Sirotas of the world talking about, Kyrsten Sinema took all this money from Big Pharma, which is true. But guess what? You can pull the numbers. In 2020, the pharmaceutical industry gave $44 million to Democrats. They only gave $27 million to Republicans in the 2020 cycle. So they're giving more money to the Democratic Party. And the overwhelming majority of Democrats take that money. Now, there are a few who don't take the money, like the AOCs of the world and the Bernies of the world and the Squad. But if the Squad is going to constantly capitulate to the party and not fight back for the policies they campaigned on, then it doesn't matter having them there. We don't need people in there to just tap dance for the Democratic, for the corrupt Democratic leadership. We need people who are in there who are actually going to fight back against this corruption. And we're seeing that they're not doing it, you know? And so that's kind of where we are. I think that, I think if the progressives have any spine, they will kill this bill. They will vote against this bill until it looks, you know, until it's adequate. And right now it's far from adequate.
But when you've got the like you said, the party took in $40 million. So two people are not going to stop the people that took the $40 million. You know, I mean, you can't put it on just those two villains when $40 million comes into the party, because they're really not going to work that hard, because they took that money for a reason. It's to stop Medicare for all, to stop lowering drug prices. So, I mean, we know the rotating villain is a thing. I mean, if Manchin became a Republican tomorrow and we elected another Democrat, there's somebody's more than willing to step up and fill that role, because they're going to get an increase in money.
Mark Warner are just like, get me in there. Yeah.
Let's go.
And think of all the Democrats too, like the Cory Bookers of the world and Kirsten Gillibrand. All of them are bought and paid for by Big Pharma and the giant insurance companies and Wall Street. And they are loving this because right now everyone's just blaming Manchin and Sinema, and all these corrupt Democrats are flying under the radar. They're like, God, I love Manchin and Sinema, right? Keep calling them out, because they get to kind of take the corporate money and then give these ridiculous speeches of full of platitudes and promise and hope, and then just turn around and sell the people out. So I just think we're in a moment in history where platitudes aren't going to solve the crises we face, right? And last night, Pelosi and Hoyer, who's the House leader, they had a private meeting. And the message, this is per Politico and a few other publications, but the message that Pelosi and Hoyer delivered to the caucus last night was, sure, all these, most of the programs are getting axed. You know, paid family leaves is getting axed. In fact, I wrote them down because I have ADD, but 2 years free community college, axed. The Clean Energy Performance Program, axed. Guaranteed paid leave, axed. A tax rate hike on the rich and corporations, axed. And now Medicare expansion, looks like it's next on the chopping block. So this spending bill is completely inadequate. And Pelosi and Hoyer's message to the caucus last night was, well, we just need to act like we're winning. You know, how are the people going to believe us unless we project a message of success? Right. So they're still all about messaging, and messaging isn't going to stop the climate crisis. Right. You know, messaging isn't going to stop the income inequality crisis and the racial injustice crisis. So we need way more than messaging and platitudes and all these ridiculous speeches Democrats make. We need policies that are going to improve people's material conditions. We need policies that are going to transition us from fossil fuels to clean energy. And the Democrats don't want to do it. They don't want to threaten the status quo. They don't want to rock the boat. They want to keep taking corporate cash and just pandering to the people with empty platitudes. And I think one thing that people need to get really clear about, especially liberals, is if you tell a party that's this corrupt, if you tell the Democratic Party that you will vote for it no matter what, then you can't act surprised when the party takes your vote for granted and does less than the bare minimum with its majority, right? Like, this is what you get when you vote blue no matter who. You get a party that will just take its voters for granted and keep moving right. You know, lastly, I would just add, like, we are no closer to, you know, the Democrats control the House, Senate, and White House, and we are no closer to a living wage, Medicare for all, and a Green New Deal than when the Republicans were in power. Like, that should wake people up. We can't get a floor vote on Medicare.
We're not talking about it anymore. At least when Republicans were there, we heard those words. Now we're being told, like, oh, you have to be 65. We'll lower it to 60. Maybe, oh, it's not going to make it in the bill. I mean, at least, it's a horror show.
I think a critical part of this is that Democrats are waiting to lose the midterms so they can be incompetent with a solid excuse
and raise money off of it again.
So
yeah.
what
Right,
people,
that's when Democrats, they don't care about whether they lose or win an election. It doesn't matter to them because they win no matter what, because they keep getting this corporate cash. They all have health care, right, that we're paying for with our tax dollars.
Yep.
So they don't really care if they win or lose. And I think people have to separate it. I hear so many liberals still, they say things like, well, but we're getting some people in office, or, we're electing more squad members. And it's like, it doesn't matter when a Democrat wins an election, the people don't win the election. We're not even getting bare minimum policies here. The corporations are winning the elections. Wall Street's winning the elections because they own both parties. So we've got to separate this idea that, if a Democrat wins or loses an election, that the people's security and needs depend on that. Because right now, Democrats have all the control of the entire government, and they're not fighting for just our basic human rights. They're not fighting for healthcare for all. They're not fighting for a living wage. They are doing the bare minimum, if less than the bare minimum. And I hope this is a moment that radicalizes people, that wakes people up, and they see that, like, both parties, they control, they use our government to enrich themselves and their corporate donors, and we the people are paying the price. And I think right now it's asking the people who are suffering, it's too big of a price for these people to pay. We deserve so much better than this. And I don't think we'll ever get better than this as long as we're as long as we stay within the Democratic Party. I think we're seeing the limits of that right now. And I would add, I hope people like Bernie Sanders and AOC start to rethink their whole theory of change. Because right now we're not seeing them move the Democratic Party left at all. We're actually seeing the Democratic Party move closer to its corporate donors, move further right, move further away from dignity and justice for all. So, it's time to start having these difficult conversations where it's like, what's the point of investing all this time and energy in trying to reform a party that cannot be reformed and is telling us, the Democratic Party is telling the people they don't want to be reformed. Look who they just nominated for the new head of the DNC. He's a corporate lobbyist, Jamie Harrison. Spent his whole career as a corporate lobbyist. And he just nominated a bunch of new corporate lobbyists to join the DNC. So they're telling us they don't want to change. They don't want to change the party. It's time for the left to listen.
Yeah, from the beginning, Biden was like, I beat the socialist, and laughed at that group of Black activists, civil rights leaders on that Zoom call that's resurfacing again today. I mean, they've been really clear. Pat, I feel like I interrupted you 3 times. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to say the public doesn't realize this, and this is the squad. The squad are the people that can reach the public to get a message to the general public that we cannot. And the message they should be pushing is that it's now or never on this bill, because in all likelihood, Democrats lose their power to pass anything whatsoever in the midterms because they're so shitty at fulfilling their pledges, campaign pledges. So we're going to lose. So this is our time. This is our one bill, and to compromise on the compromise on the compromise on this bill is just unfathomable. And the squad should be out there telling the public, like, look, if you elected Biden, we could have 8 years of Democrats coming ahead of us, and there will be no bill. So and that doesn't mean you should say go vote for Democrats. It means we have the majority now. We need to get this in this bill, because we could lose everything, and everything could just get worse with the Republicans. So
I mean, it's going to be horrible. They're going to change. The voting rights, abortion rights. Yeah,
but those things are built into the formula of Biden not fulfilling his campaign pledges. So that's why the squad really needs to make that message known, because they have the outreach. They are the influencers, unfortunately, instead of the bill writers and the.
One of the things, though, that we're seeing, what you're saying is correct. However, that's not what the squad and even Bernie are doing. I know. We're watching Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema control this entire discussion around the bill. We're watching them draw hard lines. We're watching them make demands and go to the mat for their corporate donors and for the ruling class. And we're not seeing Bernie and the squad kind of take that same hardline position, right? They all ran great campaigns that they were going to fight back against the establishment. They were going to fight back against the Pelosi's of the world. And I'm over here wondering, like, well, when's the fighting going to begin? I'm like, when are we going to start fighting? Because I'm not seeing rally at all. I'm seeing a fold.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, I can't even personally, I don't believe I supported AOC's campaign in 2018. I remember when she had 10,000 followers on Twitter. I remember sharing her campaign video. I was very passionate about her campaign and the message. I just think that she's no longer fighting for the policies and the principles that she was when she was campaigning. Right. And we need, you got to keep that same fire, if not even more, when you get in there, because when you get in there, you've got the corrupt party surrounding you. You've got, all the corporate lobbyists that are influencing all the people in your party. And we need them to be strong and to fight for the policies that they campaigned on. And we're not seeing that. This bill is so far from what we need. If the Democrats truly worked for the people, they'd be fighting for Medicare for all. Right. They'd be fighting for clean energy by 2030. They'd be fighting for a living wage. Instead, they're not even going to pass the most moderate of reforms that don't even get the job done. So I think it's back to the drawing board. I personally, that's why I support people like Princess Blanding. I support the Green Party. I support the People's Party's efforts. I support the socialist parties as well. I mean, I'll support anyone who is building mass movements, or who is protesting, or who is building strikes, because that's what I see as the only way to change this. Wow. I think, in essence, if it's between these two corrupt parties, I don't think it matters who's in power. I think what matters is how the people fight back against this corrupt system. And I think doing it from the outside is the only way we're going to see real change in this country. I think that allowing the Squad and Bernie to suck up all of the progressive energy and funnel it back into a corporate party that is telling us loudly and clearly that they will not fight for the change we need, I think that is the sign for us to start fighting in a different direction. Right. And, a lot of people, that creates a lot of friction. And okay, fine. If you guys don't believe in that, then keep supporting the Squad. That's fine. But I'm going to stick with the principles and the policies that the Squad originally was fighting for, that Bernie was originally fighting for. And I think that's where the movement should do. I think things are getting too cute. I think people are putting personalities above policies. I think that the progressive movement is becoming a cult of personality movement. Yeah. And I largely blame people like Bernie and AOC who are backing down from their original positions.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean, not only were we told at the beginning of the primaries that, why does Bernie even have to run? Because we've got 20 other people who are just as progressive as Bernie, right? But also, I had hoped that there would be a little more fortitude, especially when the Squad was then backed up with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. But it just feels like each one's taking turns. Who's going to be like the little bit of the, like scratching the surface while the other people fall in line. And yeah, I mean, it is really depressing. And the other thing I'll say is, when it looked like Bernie was going to win the whole thing, we had Hillary Clinton, Biden, huge Democratic donors saying that they couldn't commit. If Bernie got the nomination, they weren't sure they'd be able to vote for him. So on the other side, people are very clear about where their loyalties lie. And we should always, the second that those gatekeepers tell us to stop criticizing the Squad and Bernie, that it's nefarious, because nobody gets anything done by bowing to the power.
Well, you bring up a good point. I remember that feeling right after Nevada and right before Super Tuesday. Like, I was feeling so good. I thought, okay, Bernie can do this. But as always, the Democratic establishment was 2 steps ahead of us. Yep. That same weekend, right after Bernie wins Nevada and right before Super Tuesday, Obama makes the phone call. Yeah. He asks Klobuchar and Buttigieg to get out of the race and consolidate behind Biden. Warren stayed in the race, which hurt the progressive movement, which hurt Bernie. But I think there's a lesson there. The lesson is that the Democratic establishment is always going to protect itself. Yeah. They are always going to do everything they can to rig the primaries against the most progressive candidate. We saw it happen to Bernie in 2016. We saw it again with Obama getting involved and consolidating the moderates behind Biden. And I would just challenge people that think that there's any hope left in this party. The DNC already has its 2 candidates that they are going to run for the next 2 decades. It's going to go from Biden to Kamala Harris, and then it's going to go to Buttigieg. He's their next great savior. Yeah. Because again, they're going to lean into candidates who talk all the empty platitudes and all the rhetoric. They're going to lean into identity politics in a superficial way. They're not going to actually improve the lives of marginalized people. They're not going to improve the lives of of Black people, of
Right.
working class people, of LGBTQ people like myself. What they're going to do is they're going to pander to us. They're going to use all these platitudes, and then they're going to continue to move right and govern for Wall Street and their corporate donors. That's who the Democratic Party is. So AOC, it's kind of like after Bernie lost, I feel like she's like, okay, I'm going to start playing the inside game. I'm going to cozy up to Pelosi. I'm going to do it. That's her approach now, instead of kind of being that firebrand. And I would just say that AOC can get as close as she wants to Pelosi and the corrupt establishment. She can do everything they want, which she's doing right now. She's providing a lot of cover for the Democratic Party and giving it this kind of leftward veneer when it's not left at all. It's a right-wing capitalist party. And why I say this is AOC will do this, and then when she'll probably run for president, and the DNC will do everything it can to make sure it's Kamala or Buttigieg, and they will make sure that it's not even someone who's fighting for social democracy. Like the Democratic Party doesn't even want social democracy. I'm ready for full-on socialism. I don't think you can have liberation and justice for all in a capitalist system, which exploits the labor of the working class to enrich the ruling class. But that's a separate conversation. The Democrats will fight against just social democracy. And so AOC can play this inside game, and we'll watch. It'll get rigged against her. And then I'm like, is that when the rest of the left is going to wake up? When they did what they did to Bernie, to AOC? I don't know why people can't quit the Democratic Party. I feel like it's a mental block for a lot of people. And I feel like that's what's holding progress back in this country. It's not the right. I know who Republicans are. I've always known who they are. I've never voted for a Republican in my life. But it's the Democrats who deceive us. They sedate us with platitudes and then give us nothing in return and keep marching to the right with Republicans. They collaborate with Republicans.
Yeah, but Democrats are going to run forever on. I tried to fulfill those promises, but we just need one more Democrat, two more Democrats, three more Democrats. So I really tried. Parliamentarian. You know, they got all these cards ready to go. And like you said, I mean, if you look back and Bernie had mass appeal that we'll probably never get from even AOC. Like he had a trusted history of voting correctly, standing up to power. You know, AOC she will never have that. No matter how hard she tries, she will never have that. So when you see what they did to Bernie in a week, the media and Obama's phone call in 1 week was able to kill what was going to be a winning campaign.
Do you think we could get
Joe Biden got Joe
Right.
Biden got $90 million worth of free media on the weekend after he won one primary, right? After he won South Carolina. He got
Republican state.
He got $90 million in free media from CNN and MSNBC. So that's what I mean. They have an entire corporate media apparatus. We have independent media. I think it's great that you guys have a show. But, I think it's great that leftists are starting to get into independent media, and so we can get people out of the media that only supports the two corrupt parties. But again, it's always going to be an uphill battle because they've got the big money. We've got the people power, but they've got the big money. And boy, do they use that big money to confuse us, to pit us against each other, and to do everything they can to protect their power and their privilege. That's what it's about. And for me, I'm just waiting, hopefully, for more liberals to wake up, because I would say right now, liberals, y'all are complicit. You know, I used to be a complicit liberal, so I know what it looks like. You know, liberals, a lot of liberals are very comfortable. They benefit from the status quo.
Yeah.
They benefit from this decrepit capitalist and imperialist system that exploits the labor of the working class and exploits people in the global south to enrich the oligarchs back here. They've got a great corporate job. And so, and in a way, I can see why they're like, what are these lefties talking about? Why all this fuss and stuff? And it's because, you know, if you're comfortable, you don't understand like why people need Medicare for all right now because they got health insurance, right? They don't understand why we need a living wage. And so a lot of the comfort of these liberals is really what's preventing us from having the change we need in this country. And what's going to happen is we're going to end up with another kind of far-right, neo-fascist, authoritarian come on the right. Because when the Democrats do this and govern for Wall Street and their corporations, they create a vacuum of space for an authoritarian to rise up on the other side. And so we'll be stuck in this cycle that goes from kind of corporate extremism to right-wing fascism. We'll be stuck in this cycle until the people wake up and start to build a mass movement that gets us away from this political system that only benefits the 1% and shifts us to a society where people and planet come before profits. And unfortunately, we're so far from that, yet we need that change right now. Like, we don't have any more time to wait. So it is very frustrating.
So I agree with you 100%. And I think the way to activate these liberals, well, not activate the liberals, but the way to reach liberals is, first we have to go back and pretend Bernie is still leading this progressive movement. We need to activate progressives and switch them from electoral politics that they put into the Bernie movement and put that into the strike movement, put in the workers' rights movement. Yeah. And then from that, liberals can see, because it'll be impossible to ignore all these striking organizations and hopefully a general strike at some point. But yeah, it's clear to me.
Well, let's be clear too. The material conditions of the people are just going to keep getting worse. I mean, right now we have 80 million Americans who are either underinsured or uninsured. We have 140 million Americans who are poor or low income. Yet we have 3 billionaires that control more wealth than half of our entire nation. So the income inequality is just going to keep getting worse. The climate crisis is going to keep getting worse. All of these existential crises are going to keep getting worse. And so there's going to come a point where the pressure is going to be too much for the duopoly to ignore. And that's the point we need. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We need to start building solidarity with workers who are striking, with the socialist parties, with the Green Party, anywhere where you see people building power, go. That's where we should be focusing our energy and efforts on, because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they're building power, but they're not building power for the people. They're building power for their corporate parties and for their corporate donors. That's who they're building power for. But
they just said today that
ourselves, that's really what needs to happen.
Well, I mean, just the breaking news of the day is that, like, in all likelihood, the billionaire tax that paid for a lot of this bill is dead now. So, Democrats are so owned that we can't even put a tax on literally 10 people. So, like, the Manchin's like, no, don't tax those 10 people.
Yeah.
But it's all obviously seconded by the Democrats behind the scenes. I mean, that's what they want. But
yeah, I hope they don't vote for this. I really do hope that Bernie holds the line and doesn't vote it down, and votes it down, because this is really an abdication of duty for the people that we worked really hard to get in there to not fight as hard as the Manchins and the Cinemas and all of the other corrupt people. We're not going to get what we want in this watered down bill anyway. We're not going to get what people need. Everything that Biden promised was already woefully insufficient, and he's not going to deliver a single one of those campaign promises. So the least I think that the squad and Bernie and the progressives can do is to show some fortitude and backbone and because, like, wield their power a little bit.
And that's the only way that they're ever going to get any concessions from Pelosi and Biden and the corrupt establishment, is if they hold the line and if they fight back. And let me tell you something, the people will be with them.
Yes.
The people are overwhelmingly on the side of justice. Yes. They're on the side of Medicare for all, of a living wage.
Why didn't all these policies in West Virginia? Yeah.
They're popular. And so that's, I think, what sometimes because they're insulated in Washington, they forget that, like, the people will be on their side. I'll even be on their side if they stop this kind of cutesiness and stop kind of placating to Pelosi and Biden and start fighting back against the establishment. If they did that, I think a lot more people would be on their side, and that would create more pressure. But what I'm seeing from them now is the opposite of that. And it's why I'm glad I dim exited finally in 2020. And I don't actually see myself ever, voting Democrat again. I don't think that the party is ever going to fight for the needs of working people and for the needs of this planet. I think it will continue doing what it's doing because it's getting away with it. Like it's totally getting away with it. And I think they're going to continue to be the party that's you got to vote for us because Republicans are bad. It's like, okay, sure, Republicans are bad. Now, what do you stand for? What are you fighting for? Enough with the Republicans already. I know who they are. But what I see from you is just deceit and lies and gaslighting. And I think we're way past the point of just putting up with it anymore. And so I think it's going to take people, Bernie taking a hard line, also the movement taking a hard line, and stop allowing them to take us for granted, and start really fighting back against the Democratic Party. Until that happens, the left won't have any power in this country. because it gives it away to the Democratic Party.
No, you're absolutely right. I agree. I agree with everything you said.
Unfortunately, I wish, it wasn't this,
I know.
it'd be much easier if we could just support the squad and change the Democratic Party from the inside. It sounds lovely, but the party's not changing,
it's not changing. And it is really frustrating. You're right. They've lost why aren't they activating their organizations and all of us who, phone banked for them and texted for them? Why haven't they called on all of us to support them during this time? Why didn't Bernie and the squad go down to West Virginia, or go to Arizona, hold huge rallies and shame those people? We do have their back, and it's very, it's been really tragic for me to see that it's not reciprocated.
Well, on one hand, Black people were their base to win the elections. How many times do we hear that? And then we had a whole year and a half of Black Lives Matter fights to defund the police, and they raised the budgets for police forces. So, I mean, that should tell you everything in my mind. I mean,
and we know when they want to fight for something, they fight for it. They got rid of Bernie and they crushed his movement, and Obama picked up a phone. And if it's just, does somebody need to hand him Joe Manchin's phone number? It's just such a joke.
And I think if all I would like to see is Bernie and the squad fight back as hard against the establishment as the establishment fights against them and the policies that they campaign on.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely.
And I also think that, look, change is uncomfortable. I think people have got to get over this kind of pearl clutching. And, I think what I'm seeing from Bernie and the squad is they're resisting having that clash with the corrupt establishment and with big business. And if you don't embrace that clash and have that clash, then the Democrats are just going to keep funneling more money to their corporate donors. That's what they're there for. That's what the party does. It's the party of Wall Street, big business, and so you've got to have an open clash with Biden, with Pelosi, and with big business. And they don't seem to want to do that. I had Shama Savant from she's with the Socialist Alternative Party, and she's in Seattle, and she won $15 minimum wage in Seattle all the way back in 2014 or 2015, and she did that by building a fighting movement. By using her seat to actually bring people in and to build a grassroots movement that fought back against the Democrats in Seattle. And the movement was so loud that the Democrats ended up caving. That's the kind of energy we need to see in Washington, but we don't see that approach. And so, if we're not going to see that approach, I don't think there's any hope in the squad right now. And even in Bernie, and Bernie's the one who radicalized me. I will always have a soft spot for Bernie because he's the one that really made me see the corruption of the Democratic Party. Yeah. But right now I see him kind of taking a softer approach, and it's hard to watch. And I just don't think that approach is going to work. It's the same thing. I had a conversation with Andrew Yang. He came on my show last year. And look, I'm with him on, he wants to support ranked choice voting and open primaries, but I'm not with his softer approach. He's got this kind of we just need to move forward. He kind of wants to gloss over all of the confrontation that needs to happen in society. We need to challenge the billionaire class. Yeah. We need to challenge these corrupt parties. Andrew Yang is just kind of look at me, TikTok videos and rainbows and unicorns. That's not what it's going to take. Yeah. You need to get serious here and really fight back against the corruption, fight back against capitalism. Yeah. And he's not ready for that. So I don't think that approach is going to work. Anyone who fights for ranked choice voting, because I think we need more options, more choices. But again, I just don't think this kind of cute approach is going to work anymore. We need to be confrontational. We need to be adversarial. We need to be bold, not kind of, everything's great. No, everything's not great.
Right.
I really think we need to pivot, our job, and not that, I don't know how many viewers we have, but I'm not going to change the world. But as independent left media, we need to pivot the progressive movement towards these events. We need to reframe their thinking. It's not whether you're for or against the squad. It's just forget they're our leaders. They're not our leaders. They're Democrats in office. We need leaders on the outside doing what we wish Bernie was doing. And we need to elevate those voices to take that space that they're I don't want to say co-opting, but they're they're not using how we would like. So we need
Right.
our own leaders on the outside doing that. And
yeah, and just keep fighting for the policies that they originally ran on. That's what the movement should be about. It should be about Medicare for all. It should be about a living wage. You know, it should be about tuition-free college. It should be about a basic income, reparations, you know, an eco-socialist Green New Deal. There's amazing policies out there that we should all be fighting for. It should not be about, you know, hero
Instagram.
worship and, you know, wearing dresses to expensive events.
Yeah.
You know, it should not be about personalities. It should be about policies and principles. And if we stick with that, we're good.
Yeah.
You know, and I think for me, it's just, I have no beef. I have nothing against AOC. I just disagree with her strategy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about, you know, whether she's a good person or a bad person. I try to stay out of that. I disagree with her approach right now. I think if we're ever going to get any policies and justice for the people, we've got to fight for it. Yeah. And I wish she would take the same approach that she campaigned on. Remember, she campaigned, she's like, I don't care if I'm a one-term Senate congressperson.
Yep.
I can get more done in one term.
That's right.
You know?
Yep.
Where's that AOC?
I want her back.
You know, we need firebrands. We need people who are unapologetically fighting to move this country to the left. Yeah. We don't need centrists. We don't need moderates. We don't need kind of squishy in the middle. We need to be bold about our agenda. Our agenda is the right agenda. Now let's fight for it.
That's right. All right. We agree with everything you say. You're awesome. You always, you know, you're so clean in the way you speak about everything. It's just so clear what needs to happen. I love it. I am sorry that we have to move on just so we can get to a few little hashtag news items that we wanted to get to. I don't know if you're able to hang out and do this little wheel of current events with us where we just kind of like get to talk about a few things that are going on that we're trending on Twitter, but it's all like news stuff pretty much, but we'd love to have you be part of it.
Let's go.
Okay. Pat, it's all
good. Baby. Oh wait, I have to pull the sound.
Yeah, baby.
Supply chain.
All right. The supply chain. Pat, you want to get us started on that, or do you want to talk about how our leaders are dealing with this?
Well, we could. We have some video here. Let's talk about. Here's Jen Psaki. I always pronounce the P out of disrespect.
Just to piss her off if she ever catches.
Just a question on the timing on the supply chain issue.
Yeah.
Actions that the president has taken. It was clear in March of 2020 when COVID hit that the supply chains across the world had been disrupted. Even as the sort of work to fight back against COVID proceeded, it was crystal clear that things were not improving on supply chain. People couldn't get dishwashers and furniture and treadmills delivered on time, not to mention all sorts of other things. So why is
the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed?
Right, probably.
God damn it. What a fucking asshole. She's acting like it's just like bougie people who aren't going to get to exercise and that there aren't going to be like diapers and formula and food problems happening. That is so upsetting to me.
And it affects everybody. I mean, people, homeowners can't get dishwashers. I mean, I think it's registering. Yeah, it's registering with everyone right now that we have supply chain problems. But how do you put those on Trump? I mean, this is your administration now. You own everything happening now.
40 years in the making, right? Like we have pushed manufacturing out of this country. We don't
That's
anything here because we all had to use slave labor from China, the global South, everywhere we could get it so that we could have our, cheap every product in our house so that we could have a bunch of billionaires. This is the end result of that. This is what's happening.
That is absolutely correct. And not enough people are talking about that. This is a result of our capitalist system that has gone, the CEOs, 40 years ago, they looked at a little chart and it's like, well, America, why don't we go exploit workers in China and we can do it much cheaper and we will make more money. And they outsource all these manufacturing jobs. And so that's absolutely right. Someone also brought up a great point on this that, I know sometimes it can be a little more expensive, which is hard because there's so many people struggling right now. But also there are a lot of people who, whether it's small businesses or who make local stuff, now is a good time to shop local, to support, whoever in your city, because there are people who do make stuff, who do make, whether it's food or, there are small businesses that are out there that we can support. And if we can, we should.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is
not because of Trump. And that's
this is a
No, all we're in this country, we're just enriching Amazon more. Like the pandemic is making we're just going to all Amazon. I was listening to, I don't know if it was NPR, because probably not, because it was actually a positive story. But earlier today, they were saying how France is fighting back against Amazon bookstores. And so Amazon has to sell it. They already passed a bill in their legislation to Amazon couldn't underprice local bookstores. So they all have to sell books at the same price, which is fantastic. But then Amazon is like, okay, but we'll do 1 penny shipping, So now they're changing that, even though, so they're representing people, representing local businesses. They see the problem, and we're just
regulation from your government.
We're going the other way in this country with all this shit.
All right, spin the wheel.
Let's spin the damn wheel.
We only got 13 more minutes. Let's see it.
Yeah, baby.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know, Ryan, I'm sorry, because I know you don't drink, and now I'm making you watch me take another shot.
Well, I'll take a little shot of my Coke Zero. How about that?
Cheers. Pat, let's see your shot there. I don't trust you. Sometimes Pat teases, lies.
Straight from the bottle.
There we go.
There you go.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This for the strikers everywhere.
Oh, always
right
for
here.
The strikers. Cheers. Solidarity. All right. Let's go.
That wasn't a topic, was it?
No, it will get there. We have it. Are you not going to share the screen? You're in charge.
Oh, I didn't.
Are we spinning?
Yes.
I didn't put it on screen, so let's do it again. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah, baby.
This
This wheel is cursed.
It's
cursed.
Y'all are going to be drunk after this.
That's the plan.
And then I make my kid take the but I play by the rules.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Okay.
Nazis.
This was trending on Twitter today. I was like, Nazis, why is that trending? And it's trending because do you have the video of what's his face?
Our favorite person on earth. It's short, so let's show the video.
I did a quick count just sitting here. During this hearing, I counted 20 incidents cited. Of the 20, 15 on their face are nonviolent. They involve things like insults. They involve a Nazi salute. That's one of the examples. My God, a parent did a Nazi salute at a school board because he thought the policies were oppressive. General Garland is doing a Nazi salute at an elected official. Is that protected by the First Amendment?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So the liberals are melting down on Twitter today because they're like, can you believe it? Ted Cruz is defending Nazis. I can't stand Ted Cruz. I also don't like all these parents who are being funneled in by Roger Stone or whoever right wing to protest mask mandates and vaccine mandates. They were using the Nazi salute to draw a correlation, which I think is faulty, but between the vaccine mandates and the Gestapo. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
however, they were
very
not
ridiculous.
They were not sincerely doing Nazi salutes, which even, it's horrific as it is, you're allowed to do that walking down the street. One of, the ACLU's most famous cases in Skokie, Illinois was to defend the right of Nazis to have a parade, white supremacists. The thing that's really fascinating to me is that there was a whole cycle today where liberals were losing their mind about Ted Cruz defending Nazis, when at the same time, David Sirota today wrote a really great piece about how Democrats right now, because they're not delivering on everything we just talked about, no living wage, no Medicare for all, no paid child leave, no paid sick leave, nothing that would help the masses. They are actually complicit. They are collaborators. They are marching us right towards that Weimar Republic because so to me, that is a much bigger threat to our existence than, we could get rid of somebody like Ted Cruz if we actually enacted some of these wildly popular policies that are desperately needed by the whole country. And instead, they're going to go dunk on Ted Cruz for this. I mean, it's awful. I can't stand all of that. But like, where's the energy going?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Nazis are bad. I'm never going to going to defend Nazis. Yeah. Like, you know, that's, I mean, but
that's what we do on this show.
Yeah.
You didn't know, Ryan?
But I do think there's this liberal thought of like, there are some liberals out there who literally believe that everyone who votes differently than them or thinks differently than them is a Nazi.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is the word stops losing power because there's a specific definition for what a Nazi is, right? And there's been studies about this. You know, there's been studies in this country on how many white supremacists there are. And the studies range between like 5 to 10 million, which is a lot, right? You know, there's been a lot of studies about this. And look, I don't know the amount, but I do know that it's a minority, right? And so when you focus on the minority of the people in this country who are white supremacists, what you're doing is you're giving them more power and you're not focusing on the policies that we need to deliver to the 90% to stop people from moving to extremist positions like Nazism, right? Exactly. You can catch people if you start to tell them, look, the government can work. Here's healthcare. Here's a living wage. Get back, be a productive member of society. But instead it's no, and there's, you know, I heard a liberal once say that they think there's 80 million Nazis in this country, which is absolutely blasphemous.
Everyone who voted for Trump is a Nazi.
Everyone who voted for Trump is not a Nazi. Right. Are some? Sure. Right. But it's like it starts to lose power when everyone you disagree with is a Nazi. And also, let's be clear, like you said, that the Democrats are emboldening the Republicans because they're not fighting. You know, the Democrats always say, you got to vote for us because we have to stop the Republicans. Well, then you vote for them. Then the Democrats get power, and they don't actually stop the Republicans. They collaborate with them to funnel more money to their corporate donors. So the Democrats are complicit. They're in bed with the fascists. You know, they're right there with them.
You need to take the FDR approach, and you stop fascism with social programs that work. Yes. That's exactly what he did. He stopped fascism. If you're worried about fascism, I mean, because we have a Nazi problem, but it's, you know, our government being run by Trump, trying to overrun, you know, that is always going to be the extreme right that the Democrats run against. They're going to run against this. Like, if you don't vote for us, we suck. We literally suck. But if you don't vote for us, you have fascism. So we don't suck as much as fascism. But all you have to do is fulfill some social promises that you said, and you literally ran on your campaign on, and that will do it.
And what we also are seeing is neoliberalism is what paves the way for neo-fascism, right? It literally paves the way for it. So you're right. Socialism will stop fascism, not neoliberalism, not collaborating with these Republicans. And I also think you got to take a clear look at what the Democratic Party is doing right now. They have moved to be very authoritarian. They're silencing free speech. They are locking up Steve Donziger. They're not trying to stop that. They're not trying. Biden's still going after Assange. So they're giving more money to the police state. Everything the Democrats are doing is also very authoritarian. That's right. And not democratic at all. Right. So, you know, and I've just seen a wave of authoritarianism pop up. You know, look, I got vaccinated. I believe in the vaccine, but I also don't believe in dehumanizing people who chose not to take it. But you see liberals now who they want to dehumanize and treat people like second-class citizens. And I just think that's a dangerous line. It sets a dangerous precedent. Sure, I wish everyone would get vaccinated, but I'm not going to demonize people who choose not to.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think that's where we both land. I want to see a mask mandate before there's an actual vaccine mandate, but
and daily
that seems like the natural first step, because that's not
I know I say it all the time. I was like the first in line to get vaccinated. I believe in all of that, but also there's there are many other NPI, like non-pharmaceutical interventions, that we could be taking. Also, if we're really serious about stopping the spread of this, we have to release the patents and allow everybody in the global South and Africa to get to manufacture their vaccines. And until we do that, then this is just going to keep happening.
It's so clear how much corporate greed and capitalism runs our whole government.
Well, and also it's important always to challenge government and not, you know, like, where do we draw the line? Because, you know, I got 2 vaccines. Now they're saying a third and then a fourth. You know, you always want to be at least asking questions.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got one more.
Baby.
Dem emails. Okay.
All those
Dem
emails. Have you been getting, I think from yesterday to today, I probably got 30 panicked emails from every different, Democratic super PAC about how terrified they were. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I know you got at least 10 because you sent a few of them.
I did. I was like, what the hell is
just a couple. Just a few.
Each one, it's all for Terry McAuliffe, which it is going to be really interesting. And I know that we're talking about Princess Landing, but right now it is going to be a little bit of a bellwether, right? Like if it's Terry McAuliffe or the fact that Youngkin is so close to him in West Virginia, it shouldn't be this close. I think it was a +10 Biden state. And now for McAuliffe to just be up by like 1 or 2 points, but all McAuliffe is running on, Terry McAuliffe is, that guy is like Trump and it's terrifying, and just give us $10 more so we can fight the Trump guy. Not a single policy in there. Not one, nothing.
Well, and I think it just shows how corrupt the Democratic Party is, that they are not showing up for the people after the people showed up for them in overwhelming numbers in 2020. And they're asking for money. They're literally asking for money from people when they're not doing their job and they're not passing a bold spending bill to correct a lot of the wrongs in society right now. Like, this is outrageous. People should not give $1 to the Democratic Party.
No,
money is better spent giving to grassroots organizations, giving to mutual aid, giving to people in your community who need the help. Don't give it to the Democratic Party. We see what they're doing right now. They're governing for their corporate donors. They're not governing.
Yeah. Please support the strikes first.
Yeah.
Or the strikes. Yeah. There's great mutual fund and mutual aid, for the strikes.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, to get an email at the same time, and these have been happening since, they said it was going to be $2,000 stimulus checks,
right.
$1,500, and then I'd still be getting emails like, can you chip in? And then, they all say like, stand up and fight for us, stand up and defend the Democrats. Like, I mean, it is just the audacity, honestly, the audacity.
Yeah. When are they going to fight for us?
Yeah.
Oh, so I will, in Bernie's defense, not to defend Bernie, but Bernie sent a different email, and I appreciate that. He actually,
he's using his email list to ask for it's a video because we did it.
For the video. Oh, we're gonna end on that video.
Well, he did.
Should we end on it? Are we good to go?
Yeah, we're
about Ryan.
But we should just say that the email, he used his email not to induce terror in people that the next Trump is coming, but to say, come support the strike, please, reach into your pocket for mutual aid, and for that.
So I'm going to give him that, and I appreciate that. So let's just show that video. But this is not a Bernie's the perfect guy or anything thing, but this one thing you have to appreciate. So
absolutely,
yeah. More of this, please, Bernie.
You get a chance to sit at home and some actual thinking time, and you think, really, what is my purpose here? Am I just to be some machine for some corporation to make money off of? And I more than share my time with my family with these companies, and for what?
They wanted us to agree to do away with pensions for any new hires that came after us.
I'm not willing to sell out my future brothers and sisters that might be coming in here. It could be your kid, it could be the kid down the street. We're not interested in having our retirement plans in a Wall Street speculation portfolio. We want something guaranteed.
Corporations don't want to pay their employees a fair living wage with a fair cost of living increase. Instead, they want to shift that over to stockholders and the president, CEOs, and vice presidents.
Over the last year, our CEO's pay has gone up 160%.
They're projected to make between $5.7 and $5.9 billion in profits this year. That wealth was created on the back of the workers that build these products.
We need a fair contract. We need it now. UAW 865.
I don't think anybody doesn't want to see John Deere make profits. We know that golden goose has to lay golden eggs, but man, it's time to share some of the gold.
If a president and CEO is getting $30 million a year and you have a person that's working the line that's making $15 an hour, tell me that's fair.
There's a labor shortage. Well, really, I think it's just a lack of respect and lack of wages is really what's going on.
We build some of the best equipment in the country, in the world. And all we're asking for is our fair stakes in this.
In a time when we have differences coming at us from a million different directions, people are putting aside those differences for the sake of solidarity, and it's a good feeling. And I think it's our time.
The cheap labor bubble is finally busting, and it's really the rebirth of the American labor movement.
That was beautiful.
That is beautiful. And, the title of the show today, we're family, you're fired. I heard Jonah Furman, who's been doing a lot of great labor reporting and reporting on the strikes on Chapo Trap House. And he said that, and it reminded me of those Democratic emails, like, stand up and defend us. We're family. And they always tell you, the boss tells you, we're family. We're doing this. We're family. Take a pay cut because we're going. And then the second it gets hard, they turn around and fire you or take away your health care. And, I thought that video was really beautiful. It reminded me of the solidarity that I felt when we were all part of the Bernie movement, that we can find back and keep pushing. We appreciate your voice out here, Ryan, a ton.
Oh, thank you. And I think it was great to end on that video. That, for me, I was almost tearing up. That's where the hope is. The hope is seeing workers realize their power, seeing that, this economy doesn't run without the working class.
Right.
The CEOs and the giant corporations, they think they have all the power, but they don't. We, the people, have the power, and we can make all this corruption stop if we come together and support the workers who are striking, support the March for Medicare for All movement. If you're in San Francisco, it's going to be on the 30th, just in a few days. Support people who are actually fighting back against this corrupt system. That's how we change things.
Absolutely.
So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for being on. Check out at Proud Socialist and his Amped Up podcast, right? Is that where
I should have had this ticker on the whole time, but I'm terrible at technology here. But Ryan, love you, man. You've always been on the right side of well, not always, but
don't get too drunk.
That was the liquor talking. So, no, but you are on the right side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right side now. We're thrilled to have you here. Pat, safe travels to San Francisco for the march. Do not, if you're going to get arrested, get that mask on. Take some precautions.
I'm not planning on getting arrested, but I don't care. So I'll be there. If you're in San Francisco, this Saturday, we are marching in front of Pelosi's house. We're going to be Day of the Dead. The attire is
solemn and black.
Funeral attire. And we're going to protest 60,000 plus a year people die from lack of healthcare, and that's so understated. Like it's probably 600,000 to be honest. But
well, because more people die because they're underinsured, right? They have insurance, but they don't go to the doctor because they know it's gonna cost too much. They can't afford the deductible, their copays. And
you're looking at probably like 10 million people lose their homes or some ridiculous number because we can't afford people think they have healthcare until they need healthcare. And then they're like, oh shit, I have a gold platinum plan and I have to sell my house. So anyway, thank you so much, Ryan. You're amazing.
Thank you guys. Lots of love. Solidarity.
Solidarity, everybody. Cheers. Bye.